I made an appointment with the chaplain, the pastor of the Christian community on our university campus. I'm at the point where I'm questioning my faith, and I have some questions, and if you can't give me an answer, I believe I'm going to become Muslim. And
Jeni terlahir dari keluarga Kristen, dan dia merupakan lulusan lingistik dengan kemampuan bahasa isyarat, dan Jeni menjadi guru bahasa isyarat di Kanada. Dia menjadi mualaf beberapa hari setelah mendebat seorang Muslim. Sebelum menjadi mualaf, Jeni mempunyai banyak pertanyaan tentang agamanya yang membuat keimanannya semakin berkurang. Selama kuliah, Jeni baru mencari tahu jawaban atas banyak pertanyaan tentang keyakinannya. Dia mengenal agama Islam saat bertemu dengan seorang Muslim di kampusnya. Saat itulah awal mula Jeni menemukan jawaban pertanyaannya.
I was born in Canada, as were my parents. We all grew up in Western British Columbia. My father is a police officer for the RCMP, it's the Canadian Royal Mounted Police, and my mom is a nurse. So I studied American Sign Language interpretation at university. Before I became a Muslim, I'm going to say I knew very little of Islam, if not anything. I mean, I remember the first Muslim that I can remember meeting was actually somebody I worked with when I was in high school, and I had no idea she was Muslim. I learned many years later, actually, after I had converted to Islam. I suppose my only exposure to Islam was anything I had seen on the media, particularly post 9/11, and any sort of whatever the media wanted me to hear, right? So that Muslims were responsible for terror attacks or these kinds of ideas. I think I had maybe a prejudgment about that women in Islam were oppressed.
Gambaran negatif dan stereotip terhadap Islam tetap saja mewarnai pemberitaan media-media terkemuka di Barat. Hal itu sangat mempengaruhi pandangan Jeni kepada Islam. Namun, hal yang sangat berbeda dirasakan Jeni saat bertemu seorang Muslim di kampusnya, dan dia sangat terkejut dengan perilakunya, karena yang dia lihat di berita sangat jauh, berbeda dari orang Muslim yang dia temukan. Lantas Jeni memulai diskusi tentang agama. Dia terkejut saat mengetahui bahwa agama Kristen dan agama Islam memiliki banyak kesamaan. Jeni mulai tertarik untuk mencari tahu lebih banyak tentang Islam, dan mulai mempelajari Islam dan melakukan penelitian. Semakin banyak dia mempelajari Islam, semakin dia mengerti tentang Islam, dan dia mulai mempertanyakan keimanannya.
I had a conversation with a Muslim, and I remember being so shocked because the images that I had seen on the media were so different from this individual. And then later on we had a discussion as well about the fact that the prophets between Islam and Christianity were similar, which was news to me. And I remember thinking, wow, I should learn something about this religion. Like, what if I'm ever in an opportunity, or if I ever have to interpret at a mosque, or I should get some background knowledge. So I just decided to read into Islam to expand my knowledge in case I ever was going to interpret in that situation. And in the meantime, I was still having conversations with the individual that I had met about Islam. And so as I was reading and seeing that there were so many similarities between Christianity, which was the religion I was practicing before, and Islam, I just became more and more shocked at how many similar ideas there were. So from there, I continued to do some research, and the more research that I did, the more I understood that there was things about Islam that I really appreciated, and then there was things about Christianity that I started to question, and eventually I was working at university at that time. I was working at a country club, and there was a Muslim family, a Syrian Muslim family at the time. They had just joined, and I understood they were Muslim, and I said, oh, I see that you're Muslim, and I'm learning about Islam a little bit. I'm reading about Islam, and the man, he was really keen to talk or to bring me books or help in any way that he could, and eventually they invited me to the mosque with them and to their home, and so I went because I was learning about Islam, and I was eager to go and see the community, and then when I went to the mosque, I ended up meeting some really wonderful women, young women that were my age, who I became quite close friends with.
Jeni mulai melihat banyak kebenaran dalam Islam. Hal yang menarik bagi Jeni adalah bagaimana sejarah Al-Qur'an dan Injil bertahan. Dia sangat terpesona bagaimana firman itu terpelihara selama 1400 tahun, tanpa ada perubahan satu huruf pun, dan sebaliknya, dia mempertanyakan tentang keaslian Alkitabnya sendiri. Menurut Wycliffe Global Alliance, saat ini semua ayat Injil telah berubah, versi ke dalam 736 bahasa. Perjanjian baru telah disalin ke dalam 1658 bahasa tambahan, dan sebagian kecil dari Injil telah diinterpretasi ke dalam 1264 bahasa lain. Lalu Jeni memberikan pertanyaan kepada pendeta di kampusnya dengan memberikan ancaman akan keluar dari Kristen jika dia tidak mendapatkan jawaban.
As a few months into reading about Islam, as things were starting to get more serious for me, and I was realizing that this was a religion that I really wanted to consider, I remember praying at night and just asking Allah, and I just saying, Allah, whoever you are, or God, whoever you are, if you're God of Christianity or if you're God of Islam, show that to me and kind of give me a sign, but make it clear to me, right, which is truth. And after I made that supplication and I prayed that prayer that night, it was everything just became so much clearer. I really met amazing Muslim people in my life. The questions that I was struggling with, just about the faith or about modesty, like covering, or monotheism, or the history of the Qur'an, like all these kinds of things. God just kept putting people in my life to answer those questions. I made an appointment with the chaplain, the pastor of the Christian community on our university campus. And I had asked him, I sat down with him and I said, look, I'm at the point where I'm questioning my faith and I have some questions. And if you can't give me an answer, I believe I'm going to become Muslim. And a lot of the questions particularly were with the Bible, actually, and how the Bible was selected and how the books of the Bible were selected, and the canacity of the Bible, and why wasn't the original Bible in existence, and why was there such discrepancy between the different versions of the Bible, and whereas the Qur'an has been preserved for 1400 years, and that was something that was really significant for me, because God, even in Christianity, God says He will protect His word, and there was the Qur'an that was the message of God, that even if it was physically destroyed, it would be protected because so many people have memorized it and the original is still in existence. And then here was the Bible that there was no original, and within the versions there were so many, interpretations. And so I sat down with this pastor and I asked these questions, and he couldn't give me any answer. And he said, in the end you just have to believe, and that's what faith is, and you just have to believe. And that was a struggle for me. That didn't feel right, because I felt surely religion and belief, it's more than just like a hunch, or it's more than a feeling, or it's more than an idea. Like I wanted something that felt more concrete.
Allah telah memberikan Jeni hidayah dengan menempatkan orang-orang baik yang menuntunnya pada jawaban atas semua pertanyaannya. Seorang ulama perbandingan agama dari Inggris yang akan mengisi konferensi di kampusnya, Jeni tidak menyiakan kesempatan itu. Dia hadir dan menjumpai ulama tersebut dan menanyakan semua pertanyaan yang pernah dia tanyakan kepada pendeta. Dan Jeni merasa takjub dengan jawaban yang diterimanya, dan begitu masuk akal baginya, sehingga dia dengan yakin mengucapkan 2 kalimat syahadat.
And the same weekend at my university, there was a conference that had been put on by the local Muslim Student Association, and they brought in a speaker from England, and I just remember walking in that weekend, and all of the youth were there, all of these students, and everybody wanted to meet him. He was quite popular at the time, and everybody wanted to talk to him and spend time with him. And I walked up to him, and he just sat and answered all of my questions. And I just remember thinking, wow, I went to this pastor and I had these questions, and he couldn't give me his answers. He couldn't be clear to me. And then this man who everybody wants to speak with He dedicated hours, literally hours of his time to just sit there and to answer my questions. And the other really unique part of it, because I asked him the same questions I asked the pastor, I asked him questions about the Bible. And this brother from England, he gave me the history not from the Muslim perspective. He was a comparative religious scholar, and he gave me the perspective from the Christian church, from the Christian history books. And he said, look, this is the history. If you want to go read about it, you can just go to like a Christian textbook that you would find at a Christian university. And I so appreciated that perspective, because I didn't want his bias. I wanted truth. I wanted something concrete, which is what I had gone to the pastor for. And in that moment, I felt like so much relief that I was like, there it is, there's the facts. But at the same time, I questioned, why had I never learned this when I went to church or Sunday school? Because I was very active in the Christian church growing up. And anyway, so at the end of the evening, he asked me, he said, do you believe in Allah? And I said, yeah, like I've always believed in God, that's no problem. The concept of God has never been an issue. And then he said, do you believe that the Prophet Muhammad is the final prophet and messenger? And I said, yeah, I think that makes sense. And then, so he said to me, he said, like, go wash, take your ablutions, and come back, and let's like give your shahada, your testimony of faith. And I was just like, whoa, no, this is not happening right now. I can't do this right now. Because again, I was at that point where like I knew it was truth, but I was so scared to take the step. And it was funny because I had prayed and I had asked God, I was like, who are you? And show me truth. And there it was. But in that moment, it was just like I needed to take the step. Like God did his part. It was time for me to do mine. But again, I knew what that meant for me. I knew that meant the following day I would put on hijab, or which not everybody does, but for me it was a really important step. I knew like if I was going to make this decision, I was going to live as a Muslim, and that was going to mean no more drinking alcohol, and no partying, no pork, no like putting a hijab on. And so I told him, no, like I'm not going to become Muslim tonight. And we continued the discussion. And at the end of it, I said, look, this conference is 2 days long. If at the end of the weekend I feel like I do today, like I will become Muslim, I'll make that decision, which is what I did. So that was a Friday night. And then on the Sunday, May 14th, I gave my testimony of faith in front of everybody at this conference and became Muslim.